know, a young friend can use some help. This is it. $1 a bottle. It works wonders on wounds.
Works wonders on just about everything, huh?
It can do most anything.
How was it with stains?
Good morning, everybody.
Hello, and welcome to our home and our brand of insanity and our shock and mock.
Yeah, and boy, have we got some good things this morning. We had mentioned in our last video about where did it go? The book I was reading from the other day. Now, thanks to the Beast and Watchtower's history that they tried to bury in the abyss, and thanks to the Beast because it has brought out of the abyss Watchtower's history and Jehovah's Witnesses, your foundation.
Yeah, and that's exactly what this is. This is showing what your foundation is really based upon and how this has caused other Christians to look at the trouble that the Watchtower Bible Tract Society has caused for them. But before we get into all of this, I have something that I would like to address. It's regarding a comment underneath the video that we uploaded that was my first public talk. And first of all, I have to say and ask, with the amount of people that viewed that, are you nuts? I wouldn't even sit and watch that garbage.
Thank you so much, everybody, for your comments on all the videos. Now, his first talk, of course, that was a special request by Anthony. But I put the link to our mocking of it, because we did do a commentary about his talk, and boy, did we have fun with that one.
Oh, yeah.
But I did put the link to that original video, and it's from our first channel, down below in the description underneath his first talk. So that is a much better one to watch.
Oh, absolutely.
A lot funnier.
I don't know that I'd torture myself through that public talk. But I was reading the comments, and thank you, everybody, for your positive comments and your support. And, you
some
funny. I look much better now along here in the goatee. And
his attitude is better, too.
Oh, absolutely. But there was one comment from a Dominic Riesland, Riesland, that I really want to, have a little sport with. It was interesting.
Bad idea.
Yeah.
Not him making sport, but bad idea, Dominic.
Because, Dominic, I'm here to accept your challenge. Wow. This is what this guy did if you hadn't read his comment. He just plainly said, Mikey doesn't know chess, ... And then he goes and quotes how I said something in that public talk regarding the playing of the game chess. My goodness. So what you did is that with that comment and taking things out of the context of the illustration, you implied that I know nothing about chess. Well, first of all, keep in mind that this was my first public talk, and no doubt I was as nervous as hell because, after all, in the back of my mind, every elder in that Kingdom Hall was going to sit there critiquing what I had put together in this talk. So there again, there's this nervousness. In your first public talk, not everything comes out perfect. But the thing, Dominic, that you don't understand is that how do you know that I didn't make those corrections in later talks? How do you know that I didn't highlight my wording in that talk so I wouldn't make that same mistake a second time? Wow. So what I'm going to do, Dominic, is I'm going to give you a little history about myself in chess. Because, see, you presume a lot by not knowing Mike, the person. Back in the early 70s when my mom and dad started becoming Jehovah's Witnesses, they got the TV out of our house for a number of years. So what do you think that a family did in a home without a TV? We played games. Now, my dad was a very, very good chess player, and everything I know about chess, I learned from that man. I learned from him. Now, growing up, even in grade school, instead of going outside and playing recess, we would sit indoors and play chess. in high school.
Were you in the chess club?
Well, I was just going to say the thing that prevented me from being in the high school chess club was a little thing called extracurricular activities that Jehovah's Witnesses frowned upon. Now, I married this beautiful woman, and you know what she did for me? Not only once, but twice. She made me 2 ceramic chessboards with hand-painted chess pieces. Now, the reason why she had to make 2 is because I knocked over the ceramic chess pieces and they got chipped and broken throughout the years. So then the second chessboard that she made for me was, again, another ceramic, but this was Cowboys and Indians, in which she painstakingly hand-painted each individual feather and each individual bead on the Indians'
The hardest
dress.
part was the eyeballs. My goodness, that project took me months.
Yes.
Back when I had time.
Yeah, back when, yeah. But there again, through the course of time, pieces get knocked over, pieces get broken. And so what I did is I did something a little bit more different that would kind of have a longevity with my chess playing. Allow me to show you. So Dominic, if I know nothing about chess, then why would I painstakingly make my own chessboard with walnut and maple checkerboards? Why would I painstakingly make sure that all of the grain goes the same way in each row? Why would I painstakingly look to buy hand-carved pieces if I knew nothing about chess? Interesting, isn't it? So Dominic, since you presume to know so much about me, I have some things for you to ponder. I hope that you are a Jehovah's Witness because you show the supposed superior intellect that Jehovah's Witnesses develop in their own minds. You know, we know the Bible better than anyone else on this earth. I hope that you're not an XJW because you suffer from residual superiority complex. Please seek some help and get that removed from your life. I hope that you are a JW troll because you show yourself with nothing better to do in life than to watch these videos and make self-assumed observations based on words that are not put in proper sequence, particularly in this case as it pertains to the game of chess. You do show yourself as a troll with nothing better to do than to start off a challenge with an old watchtower trick of deception. ... Checkmate, Dominic. Game over. Now, move along, because what we have to say and do right here
Is more important.
pertains to me reading more in this book, Apostles of Denial, and
Good
how
book.
yes, and how it pertains to the charlatan Charles Taze Russell. Starting off in chapter 4, he begins by writing, "Now the title is The History of Jehovah's Witnesses, the period under Charles Taze Russell, 1870 through 1916. With these words written in 1912, W.T. Ellis characterized..." Now remember, Jehovah's Witnesses, this is not new light. This is the basis of your foundation. Doesn't matter that Rutherford come along and change your name from Bible students to Jehovah's Witnesses.
It's still your foundation.
It's still your foundation. Right, so characterized by Charles Taze Russell, he found him in personal interview. Now this is how this man describes Charles Taze Russell in a personal interview. This is what he says: "I sought a prophet and found a businessman." Nothing's changed. "Instead of a humble seeker of truth, I found the cleverest propagandist of the age. A man before whom John Alexander Dowie, D-O-W-I-E, that might be like
Dowie.
Dowie, Mary Baker Eddy, Madame
Blavatsky.
thank you, Abbess Edify, Elijah Sanford, and Joseph Smith pale into, I forgot already,
Pearl.
ineffectiveness. Now, what does the pearl mean? We actually had to look this up because, people back then wrote with a different set of words than we do today.
Childish, juvenile.
Yeah. So he's really showing how child and juvenile and how ineffective Charles Taze Russell was. That's how he found him as a person. So I'm going to read one more paragraph, and we're going to go on to some things that Kim wants to read. Is this estimate of Russell just? To find the answer, this chapter will retrace the life of this man who was one of the most controversial religious leaders of his time. Actually, the first segment of Watchtower Bible and Tract Society's history is largely the history of Charles Taze Russell. He was the society. Now, it's interesting to keep in mind that before Kim starts reading this information, back in those days, it was a relatively easy thing for the Watchtower Bible Craft Society to withhold this stuff from...
Hide.
Yeah, from people. It was very easy to hide from these booklets and pamphlets because they didn't have the wide distribution that Watchtower was having with their own literature at the time. But with the advent of the internet, these things can no longer be hidden. They can be exposed on an unprecedented scale, something that Russell or even Rutherford could not have even fathomed that these things could be exposed. So, let's go on and expose a little bit more about Russellism.
Yeah. Now, I know we said this in our last video, that some say that this old stuff is irrelevant and doesn't matter, but we beg to differ. Now, I am going to put a link down below in the description to our website. And on our website, I have put, there are so many of these tracts and history and debates and court cases and everything about Russell that I had to put it on my Dropbox. And I will put the link down below to our website, because our website has most of this, and then what I couldn't fit on our website, I put on the Dropbox, and then the link to that is right at the top. If you get a chance, it's got the PDFs of all of these tracts that I found in the Beast. You can read them for yourself. A lot of them are only like 30 to 50 pages. Now, Mike read the paragraph about Russell himself. I found it in a tract. This is Russellism Unveiled. And this is by William Edward Biderwolf. And he wrote a tract, and I'm just going to read a few paragraphs here. He starts off the book with, "It's a strange thing how easily people are led astray in religious matters. They'll have good sense in every other way, and yet they'll need a commission on sanity to sit on their case when it comes to religion. They'll allow themselves to be roped in and to be duped and buncoed and bamboozled and hoodwinked by any old sort of a theory as long as it has a few verses of scripture in it to make it look like it's religious." Now, Mike mentioned a few of those cult leaders back in that day. So this is what this book says about them. On page 4. There was old John Alexander Dowie, that Mike mentioned, who thought he had a monopoly on the secrets of God. And there was old Farmer Miller, who had it fixed up that the world was to end on October 22nd, 1844. And a lot of his dupe followers had on their white ascension robes the day it was to happen. But the old sun rose in the east and rolled on through the sky just as the same as usual. There's the shameless religion they call Mormonism, and if the United States doesn't soon put the clamps to that unclean and devilish thing, the time will come when she will wish she had. Then there's Madame Tingley with her theosophy out on Point Loma. If you have a sneaking, secretive disposition, you were a cat before you became a woman. That's theosophy, all right. Some of you were elephants and some of you were dogs. I haven't time to explain. There's the fanatical Holy Ghost in Us Society up in Shiloh, Maine, with its self-deified leader, Reverend Frank Sanford, in the federal prison in Atlanta. There are the Baha'is who claim Christ has returned and is incarnated in that ungodly leader, Abdul Baha, or Abbas Effendi, as they call him. And then Mrs. Eddy and Joanna Southcott, and Cumming, and Totten, and Dimbley, and Biden, and a whole raft of other faddists, fanatics, fakers, and frauds. Some of them, though some of them have been honest enough, we haven't time to speak. So that's one paragraph when he's talking about all these other cult leaders. So then the next line of the next paragraph, and now comes one Charles Taze Russell. The rest of this pamphlet is devoted to Russell and the Bible students. So what does that tell you? One little paragraph, and then the rest of all, what is it? 35 pages are devoted to Russell.
See, one of the things that you have to keep in mind that when you begin to study Charles Taze Russell, you have to look at the reasons why he created his own theology, and it's because he had this innate fear of dying and going to hell and having his soul tormented. So the best way for him to escape that was to come up with a new religious theology, new religious philosophy that would do away with that perception of your soul being tormented, and he'd have to do away with the soul too. And that same thought process continues down to this very day among Jehovah's Witnesses. That has not changed. So that's your foundation, Jehovah's Witnesses.
Well, they say that, the Bible students reestablished truth and Jesus chose them. So this is who Jesus chose, and that is the point we're trying to make in all of this. This is who, your God, Jehovah, and Jesus chose. So on page 5, and now comes one Charles Taze Russell, formerly of Allegheny and later of Brooklyn, with the most fantastic and far-fetched scheme of them all, known as Millennial Dawnism. Russellism is a good name for it, for it's all his. And it goes on and it talks about, it goes through things of what he taught. Just as an example here on page 14, Russellism declares, now when they say volume, they're talking about the studies in the scriptures. So this is Studies in the Scriptures, volume 1, page 179. That Christ at his incarnation gave up his spirit being, and that while he walked on earth, he was nothing more than a perfect human being. So, they go through all of this from the studies in the scriptures, and how this is proved wrong from the very beginning. So that is the little pamphlet called Russellism Unveiled. And we got some more here we want to cover. But going back to the 7 thunders of the millennial dawn, I just wanted to read this on page 9. Thunders re-thundered. That's what they do. Mm-hmm. They re-thunder the thunders. Not only have they reset the doomsday of Christendom, but they have postponed their own departure, because they actually believe they were going to actually be raptured in Armageddon. Volume 3, early edition, says on page 228, just how long before 1914 the last living members of the body of Christ will be glorified, we are not directly informed. Mr. Russell becomes more certain as he writes, and he says on page 364, we may well accept the testimony of the Great Pyramid. The last members of the body or bride of Christ will have been tested and accepted and will have passed beyond the veil before the close of AD 1910. The edition dated 1923 makes the first quotation read, very soon after 1914. So they kept changing it. Mm-hmm. And the second quotation makes the pyramid testify that innocuous trouble is coming on that date. Mr. Russell's followers chide me for calling attention to these discredited prophecies and remind me that everybody makes mistakes. And that is the same thing they say today.
Nothing's changed. There's your foundation.
Going back to the book, these prophecies are more than mistakes. So even he realized it back in 1928. They are no less than false prophecies, and false prophecies can only come from false prophets. Their mischief has been multiplied by as many as there have been devotees to peddle them from person to person, from door to door. Since the prophecies failed to come true on the dates set for them, the followers have revised the dates and the things said about the dates, and now they boast that Mr. Russell prophesied the World War. Yeah. Now we're going to get into... Oh, before I forget, we got one of their little scandals. We have all heard of the Miracle Wheat debacle. And I've put the information for that in my Dropbox. So when you click on the C.T. Russell exposed file, this all should be in there about the Miracle Wheat.
Mm-hmm.
But have you guys heard about the miracle oil they were selling? We hadn't.
Nope.
Till we found it in the Beast. This is a can of this miracle oil. This is what it looked like. Desmond's Miracle Oil. Now, you Jehovah's Witnesses are probably saying, what in the world has this got to do with the Bible students, the pre-Jehovah's Witnesses? Okay, now here's a picture of a can of the oil and the advertisement. And I'm going to be reading the advertisements.
Now, where was this advertised?
Oh, no, Mikey.
No,
not
I
before.
don't want to give that away. Quite. All right.
See? Here's a full-page advertisement of this Desmond's Miracle Oil. Now you can ask,
Where does that come from? Where was it advertised?
The Golden Age, March 29th, 1922, page 416.
So, which later become the Awake magazine.
Yep, the Golden Age.
So they did do some advertising in their magazines.
Okay, this one, another full-page ad. July 5th, 1922, Golden Age, page 640. This, you can see, it wasn't quite a full-page ad, but Golden Age, and then they've got their Bible preaching up here, and then the advertisement down below. This is, looks like the January 15th, 1923, page 235.
But Shirley Watchtower didn't give any type of incentive for the Jehovah or for the Russellites to, promote this miracle oil. I mean, honestly, their whole background is to, preach the good news of God's kingdom. So what incentive would they have to sell this, miracle oil, Kim?
Now in the December, looks like 7th, 1932, 1933, page 158, 159. It's kind of hard because, it's an actual scan. Here's the ad for the Miracle Oil. Here's an advertisement right here for Einstein's book.
Ooh, yeah.
The ad for the Desmond's Miracle Oil. A chance to make some extra Christmas money.
Oh, Christmas money? Oh, wait a minute. I should have guessed that since this was in the December issue.
So I'm going to read just the little tiny blurb they have underneath that. So much interest has been shown in Miracle Oil that we have decided to make a new offer to every Golden Age reader good for the next 30 days. Send us $16 and we will send you a case of 12 one-quart cans to sell at, looks like $2 a can.
So, as it was stated in this book, and I read earlier, this gentleman that interviewed Russell found him to be a what? A businessman. And there you have it.
So Desmond's Miracle Oil advertised for sale throughout 1921 to 1922 in the Golden Age magazine. For a brief period of time, advertisements for interesting commercial products were accepted in the Golden Age magazine. This is one of those products. The ad for the Miracle Oil in the December 7th, 1921 Golden Age encouraged readers to buy a case of the special engine oil and resell it at a profit to make Christmas money. Jehovah's Witnesses, this is your foundation.
Oh, but isn't it good that they don't believe that no more?
Now this is loose since it's a printout of the scan, so I had to put it in individual plastic sheets. But it's another one of the tracks in individual sheets here, and it's called Some Facts and More Facts About the Self-Styled Pastor Charles Taze Russell. I can't talk this morning. 1920. So this track is from 1920. And I just want to read this first paragraph. Now this is a leaflet that is reprinted from 1912 by Reverend J.J. Ross, pastor of the St. James Baptist Church in Ontario, Canada. Now, the reason I mention this name is because there was a history between Russell and this pastor. And I'm going to mention some of that in this leaflet. Now, when you go back to Watchtowers, and I believe there was like a People's Pulpit paper that Russell printed, in a lot of the literature, he talks about his legal problems or entanglements with this Reverend Ross and the Brooklyn Daily Eagle, because he sued them for libel. But we'll get into that. Okay. Some facts about the self-styled pastors Charles Taze Russell. The leaflet published June 1912. Starts talking about him, how there's not much known about his early childhood or anything like that, his past. We first hear of him selling shirts in Allegheny, Pennsylvania, having inherited this business from his father. He lectured on religious subjects from time to time in various halls and churches, becoming known as the Crank Preacher. He got a considerable following of the common people and sold out the five men's furnishing stores which he owned, thenceforth devoting all his time to teaching and preaching his peculiar religious doctrines and giving out that he himself was some great one. He never attended the higher schools of learning, knows comparatively nothing of philosophy, systematic or historical theology, and is totally ignorant of the dead languages, and yet he is successful in making his disciples believe that the most difficult passages in the Old Testament and the book of Revelation are as simple as a sunbeam to him.
Wow.
Now you may be wondering where he got the title Pastor Russell. Oh, well, everybody must have given him that name. Oh, no. Page 4, about halfway down. Years ago, he gave himself the title of pastor, and from this many have inferred that he was a properly approved minister of the gospel. In 1879, he married Miss Marie F. Ackley, who divorced him a few years ago on the grounds of cruelty and having wrong relations with other women. In court, she proved improprieties between her husband and one Rose Ball. Mrs. Russell is now living at Avalon, Pennsylvania. Now over on page 5, towards the bottom. At the present time, the Brooklyn Eagle has its talons in Russell and shows him to be a most undesirable citizen. Many other papers, both secular and sacred, on both sides of the line, are compelling him to stand forth in the limelight in his true colors. By the Brooklyn Eagle, he stands charged with defrauding his wife of her dower interest, with having his name sensationally connected with those of other women, with giving himself out as an interdenominationalist, when in fact he is connected with none, but opposed to all, which they still are today.
Right. Yep.
With publishing himself as giving addresses to great crowds in important places where he has not spoken a word at all.
Sound familiar?
With seeking to dupe certain ministers into supporting daring transactions, with being connected with lead, asphalt, and turpentine companies, with selling or causing to be sold miracle wheat at $60 a bushel, with influencing the sick and dying to make their wills in his favor. They're still doing
They're
that
still
to
doing
this
that
day.
today. Nothing's changed.
With engineering the sale of a property worth $35,000 for $50 for the purpose of defrauding another. And it just goes on and on and on. And then it gets into the court case, the libel case against him. There's mention here of, here on page 16, the Russells before the courts. That is their nasty divorce. And it goes into all of that. Boy, this pamphlet was enlightening.
It was, but there again, the unfortunate thing back then is it couldn't reach the circulation to really do its harm and shut down this organization back then. You just couldn't do it. But today, because of the internet, now you can do it. And we're hoping that you Jehovah's Witnesses will see that the things that Russell was doing back then are the same very things your organization is doing today. You are buying up properties dirt cheap that are chemically contaminated. Your laborers are developing these properties for absolute free, and then your organization turns around and sells them for
gazillion dollars.
Yeah, for astronomical amounts of money, which is pure profit because it was all based on free labor, all this cleanup work. So Jehovah's Witnesses, nothing has changed with the identity of this organization. The only thing that's changed is the fact that you people stick with it because you have your ears tickled with new light.
Now, we get a lot of phone calls and emails and PMs either asking for the information about Watchtower's investments now and their financial history. And we know Jason Zelda and several others of you, Dallas, Canada, have covered Watchtower's investments. So we get a lot of people doing research and sending us information, so thank you everybody for your interest in Watchtower's business part of it and their investments. So this is for all of you who have done research, who have asked questions. This is very enlightening of what their foundations were back then and their investments in corporations. So you may find this enlightening. On page 31 of this track, Russell and his business corporations. Now, I'm going to read almost all of this because I think it is really, really enlightening and it's the same thing they are today. In fact, if I remember correctly, they still own some of these corporations. Okay, Russell and his business corporations. In the leaflet, Mr. Russell is charged with being connected with lead, asphalt, and turpentine companies. Under his direct examination by his attorneys, he was asked, now if these charges did appear in the Brooklyn Eagle, are any of them true? He stated they are not true. Was his most emphatic answer, not true? Not true. But when he was forced into the witness box by the defense and learned that we had the facts about these companies on hand and the charters of them in our possession, he made a clean breast of the whole thing. He confessed being a stockholder in the Pittsburgh Asphaltum Company, which afterwards became the California Asphaltum Company, the organizer of the Selleck Brick Company, which he entirely managed from the Bible House on Arch Street, Pittsburgh, the Brazilian Turpentine Company, in which he had a controlling interest, a cemetery company, which might explain why he is in that very prominent, big, huge cemetery,
Pyramid.
Located in Pittsburgh, and the United States Coal and Coke Company with capital stock of $100,000. It should have been most humiliating to swear to one thing and then when facing the facts again under oath to be compelled to confess to facts compelled to confess to the very opposite. Little print. What do you call this? Is it strange that the jury brought down the verdict? No bill? But there is also the Watchtower Bible Tract Society. This is professedly a religious organization having as the end of its existence the propagation of Christian knowledge. Originally, 7 persons composed this society. In the evidence taken here, it came out that there were only 5 in that society now, Russell being the head and president, and one William E. Van Amberg, the secretary and treasurer. This Watchtower Bible Tract Society was formerly Zion's Watchtower Bible Tract Society of Pittsburgh. Into this society, the so-called International Bible Students, Russell's followers, about 100,000 strong, as Russell says, pay their money. In 1912, there was paid into the society in cash donations alone no less than $202,000. For every $10 sent in at any one time by any one person, there is allowed for that person, if they wish to make the application for it, 1 voting share. Now, we already know they already have a board of directors still to this day.
Exactly.
The voting takes place on the first Saturday of every year, and that exclusively for the election of the officers of the said society, which are 3 in number, the president, the vice president, and secretary and treasurer. The money paid into this society is not in any sense returnable to the giver and non-dividend bearing. When one gives money into that society, it is gone completely.
And it still is today, isn't it, Jehovah's Witnesses?
It is gone forever. But where? It came out in the evidence in the Eagle case that only 50,000 shares had up to date been issued of the 400,000 or 500,000 that could be issued if the shares were all called for. This means that there is represented in the Watchtower Bible and Tract Society alone, of which Pastor Russell is the head, and which society is the mother of all his other business corporations, between $4 and $5 million. So this is back, in the early 1900s. That was a lot of money.
Astronomical.
It also came out in the evidence that of the 50,000 voting shares, and remember that they are only voting shares, Russell holds 47,000 of them. The other 3,000 being distributed unequally among the other 4 or 6 members of the society. On every first Saturday in the year, as I said, this society of 5 men meet to elect the officers, and Russell casts for himself, if necessary, 47,000 votes, representing $470,000. He is always elected to the presidency of this religious society without opposition. In fact, he is always elected unanimously. Is it any wonder? Russell financially and every other way dominates that society, and clearly he is that society. He will say, as he did frequently here, the society says, or the society has, or the society does. They still do that today.
They still do that today, don't they?
Yeah.
Following men, and yet saying the society does this. No, it's men that make these statements.
So, for those who think that Russell was an honest-hearted Bible student trying to find truth, it goes on.
You mean restore truth.
It goes on. When money is sent into that society, Russell has absolute control over it. In the Hamilton, Ontario Insane Asylum, there is a patient from whom Russell or the society obtained, how I do not know, the sum of $10,000. This was all the man had, and there is no hope of getting that money returned. Russell, or again the society, for they are generally synonymous terms, recognizes responsibility in this case and pays a nominal sum for that man's keep in the asylum. So somehow they got this man's everything he had, $10,000, and then they just paid the nominal monthly upkeep for him in the asylum. This is a sample of how the society gets its money. It is no wonder that the society advertises no collections in its meetings. But there is another Russellite company I wish to speak about. This is left to the last because it has a vital connection with the Watchtower Bible Tract concern. I mean the United States Investment Company. The crafty pastor has never been willing to admit that there is and has been this secret Russellite incorporated body. They don't admit it today either. He denied that the United States Investment Company was a Russellite company, that he was the president or manager of it, that he was a stockholder in it, or that he had any interest in it whatsoever. He also claims that this United States Investment Company had long ago become defunct. In the People's Pulpit, a Russellite paper, Volume 3, Number 13, in the second column near the top on page 2, you will find the pastor explaining to his readers about this company. He says, I have not $1 invested in it, nor have I been even nominally connected with it. I cannot understand how a man who is normal intellectually and morally can make such denials. His own secretary and treasurer, testifying for the defense in the Eagle case, swore that there was that company, that it was in the present doing business, and that it was a holding company for the Bible and Tract Society. That the reader might see how Russell told the exact truth and nothing but the truth about himself and this company, I will give him an extract from the company's charter. From the records in Pittsburgh, we learn that this company was incorporated in June 24th, 1896. The following is the extract from the charter. Article 1. I'm just going to read the pertinent parts of these articles. Article 1. Names of subscribers. Bunch of names. C.T. Russell. Amount subscribed by each. C.T. Russell, $990. Down to Article 3. For the purpose of buying and selling real estate.
Nothing's changed.
Patent rights, stocks, bonds, and other securities, merchandise, and building houses, etc. Location of association and its principal office, 58 Arch Street, Allegheny. Article 4. Name of association is U.S. Investment Company Limited. Article 6. Officers. Secretary, Treasurer, and Manager, C.T. Russell. Manager. The claim is now made that this USI Company Limited has no property and has been out of business for many years. Now, this is what they testified in this court case. The records in Pittsburgh show transfers of property to the self-same society as late as 1911 and November 1912. Now, remember, this is from a leaflet in 1912. You can see that the USI Company is in existence, is doing business, and just another name for Russell. It is purely a holding company for the Bible and Tract Society, and it holds all it can get its hands on. We found that the USI Company, which is Russell, holds or did hold 28 houses and lots in Bingham, New York, several lots in Tacoma, Washington, a farm near Rochester, New York, a house and lot in Buffalo, a farm in Oklahoma, 100 lots in Texas, a house and lot near Pittsburgh, and 5,500 acres of land in Kentucky. This is only a small fraction of what this company holds. We must remember, according to the charter, out of the $1,000 invested in that company, Russell has or had $990 of it. It is said that the other $10 was supplied by him, giving the other two men 5 shares each, in order to satisfy the law of the state. However that may be, is it not clear that the USI Company is altogether and only Russell? As it appears to me, this is the way it works. The international Bible students all over the world and others who are foolish enough to do so send their money into the Watchtower Bible Tract Society, which is Russell. A part of that money is used to pay the expense of circulating Russell's literature, paying his advance agents and pilgrims, that's what the pioneers were called back then, which always means chiefly the glorifying of Russell, and the rest goes through to the U.S. Investment Company, which is also Russell, and is invested in lands, lots, timber limits, houses, etc., etc. You can see it is all Russell. It is claimed that he is many times a millionaire, and yet he has not 1 cent that we could find in his own name. If Mrs. Russell were not living, or if the divorce were not a limited one, would such be the case? To ask the question is sufficient. So this is a really good, track also. And
it goes right along with what everybody's been saying today about Watchtower's holdings, Watchtower's investments. The Watchtower Bible Tract Society is nothing but a cover face for these other corporations. They're pretty much laundering their own money. That's what they're doing.
And even the unknown apostate found evidence of a gold mine owned by Russell, and how a lot of the witnesses, Bible students were investing in it and giving him money for this.
Yeah, exactly. So it's really plain to see that even back in the early days of the Watchtower Bible Tract Society, the opposers, Satan's servants, as Watchtower likes to title these people, knew full and well what the Watchtower Bible Tract Society was. It was a front for laundering money.
Yeah. Now, it's interesting because, the Beast has a whole bunch of newspaper articles that publish his sermons. And the Bible students were like, oh, look, they're publishing Russell's sermons. Isn't that wonderful? Get his word out. No. Russell, a.k.a. the Watchtower Bible Tract Society, paid for these discourses, these sermons, to be put in the newspapers. Sometimes it was an entire page, so they must have paid a lot for this. And that's also in this same booklet I was just reading from. But I mean, my goodness.
There's so much associated with the past history of the Watchtower Bible Tract Society that it's astronomical.
Mikey, and think about it. How many times have we mentioned in videos about how the governing body or the Watchtower magazine or something will talk about the governing body far more than they will Jesus Christ?
Oh, yeah.
Or, their God Jehovah. This is interesting on page 39. If you have any doubt about the absolute truth of what I have stated, look in the Watchtower for January 1st, 1912. Now, he's talking about how Russell was very focused on himself, and he always plastered his picture in these newspaper articles, on the bulletin boards, even the flyers for his talk. It always had his picture. January 1st, 1912, Watchtower, and you will find him speaking of himself 174 times, and the Lord and Master but 7 times.
Nothing's changed.
Yeah. And he kind of sums this up. He says he swore here that the ministers of all denominations proclaimed in the public what they denied in private, and so knowingly and intentionally were deceiving the people. We charge him with perjury or willfully making a false oath. He denied under oath that he was totally ignorant of the dead languages, etc., and under the test had to confess that he knew absolutely nothing about them.
Well, didn't they do the same thing to France?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Freddie Franz.
Yep.
We charge him also with creating unhappy homes in our land, interfering between husbands and wives, and separating between parents and children. It hasn't changed. We have received now remember, this is a reverend. We have received many letters telling how much unhappiness Russell and his vagaries have caused in families. And then he goes to talk about a prominent lawyer that he had proof that Russell told the lawyer's wife, who was a Bible student, to divorce her lawyer husband and take him for every cent of alimony she could get.
Yeah. Charlatans. This is your foundation, Jehovah's Witnesses. Accept that and realize what you're involved in. You're not involved with any type of true religion. You're involved with a religion that is hiding itself as a real estate mogul. And all of these investments, nothing has changed. This is all once again been exposed in modern day, just like it was being exposed back then. The difference is that a pamphlet like this could not get the worldwide circulation
that
it deserved. But you're right, it can now. And maybe this is what current Jehovah's Witnesses are resonating with. Maybe this is why we continuously get emails from current JWs. I woke up 2 weeks ago. I have some questions. I just recently woke up. Could you help me with this?
Can I call you?
Can I call you? By all means. Watchtower, this is your demise.
Yep. In fact, I just want to mention that Mikey spent over an hour on the phone yesterday with an elder's wife. Hi, sweetie. So stay tuned for
we're working
a nice project on that.
Yeah, working out to do an interview with her, which we look forward to.
Yes. Yep. So I think there's the saying that the more things change, the more they stay the same.
Yep, exactly.
So we can see that this foundation of this religion of Jehovah's Witnesses or JW.org, whatever you want to call it, their foundation that they started out with, not much has really changed. Yeah, a few flip-flopping of doctrines and stuff, but that was also being done back in Russell's day. Russell did that himself.
Yep.
So if he had the truth from Jesus Christ. And Jesus Christ chose them in 1918, 1919, whatever it was, as the only ones doing his will and having the truth. Then why did it need to change at all?
Yeah, and all of this nonsense that's associated with the Watchtown Bible Tract Society all stems because one man, Charles Taze Russell, had a fear of judgment. True Christians that have been saved by Christ don't fear this judgment because the scriptures plainly state that if you believe in Christ, you will not be judged. So when you look at this past history and why these Jehovah's Witnesses live around this fear of Judgment Day and, develop this theology regarding Judgment Day, regarding that theology revolving around Judgment Day, really boils down to one thing, Jehovah's Witnesses. You still fear Judgment Day. Because all you got to do is just listen to some secretly recorded things and you'll hear any JW say, well, I hope I make it into the new system. I hope I'm worthy of, finding, Jehovah's praise, or however you people word it these days. It's still that fear of judgment because you keep saying, I hope, I hope, I hope.
Now, at the end of this tract that I was just reading from, or booklet, whatever you want to call it, they advertised for some more tracts and booklets. And one of them is called More Data on Pastor Russell, and the other one is all about one Russell. I have taken all of these tracts and pamphlets that I have found in the Beast, and I've put them in the Dropbox file, like I said, and I will put that on our website, and the link is down below. But right underneath the pictures, the first link will be to my Dropbox with all of these pamphlets that I could not put on our website. But you will also see there is a long list of stuff about Russell and his being exposed.
Yep.
So there's just so much. So you all have fun with that research and enjoy reading all this, because we sure did. I read this pamphlet to Mike on our way to Albuquerque.
Yeah.
Day before yesterday, and it was like, oh, we've got to do a video about it.
Well, it just shows from a historical perspective, Jehovah's Witnesses, absolutely nothing has changed. So anyhow, I guess that's going to be it for now.
Yep. And we want to thank Bonnie so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, sweetie. The 1934 yearbook. And I'm sure we all know the implication of this little piece of gold right here. Yep. This is Rutherford and the Nazis.
Yep, exactly.
So hopefully we'll have a video coming up soon.
Read it right from the hard copy, eh?
My goodness, there is a lot in here that, we read the quotes from this book, and that's usually what we focus on, how they were supporting the Nazi party at that time, or nationalistic party, whatever you want to call it, at that time. But I mean, there's so much more in there, about this whole time period. It's like, awesome. Thank you, Bonnie.
Thank you.
We appreciate it very much.
Yes.
And my clipboard has disappeared. I had some shout outs.
I think your clipboard.
Oh,
right
there
here.
it is.
There it is.
Yes. Okay. There's a new YouTuber. Her YouTube channel is MLE space 956. Great videos. And well, I thought I had some more YouTube channel shout outs, but I think it's on my other list.
It probably is.
Too many lists here.
Is this the list?
Yeah.
There it is.
It's pretty bad when you have to use ledgers now instead of post-it notes. Okay, new YouTube channel, Robert56, and 56 is spelled out. And welcome to all of you to YouTube. It's so great to see all the new ones, and we're sorry we miss, so many of you. And it's just overwhelming. So we hope you have a wonderful, happy 4th of July weekend.
Yes.
I know we've been having a great weekend.
Yes, we have.
Yeah.
Let's go out and burn some powder. The wind has died down.
All right. So you all have a wonderful weekend, and we love you.
Yeah, thanks for watching, and we'll catch you next time around.
Bye.